communication around my blog. As you know, this is a thought leadership series where I talk to leaders and ask them about how they go about communicating their purpose and their values through CSR. So let me begin by first asking you to introduce yourself for our viewers.
Hi, my name is Shaina Ganapathy. I lead the outreach and CSR initiatives for Embassy Group. We're a leading real estate developer based out of Karnataka in Bangalore. Our CSR activities span across Noida, Mumbai, Chennai, Pune, and Bangalore. And me and my team, we do a collective approach to CSR across all these cities.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again. And let me begin by asking you the first question. How is CSR or sustainability defined by organization? So what does it mean, and how important is CSR communication and why?
Yeah, very early on in our quest to comply with CSR, the company decided that every project that we build will have a community around that project that we sustain. Let it be education for the poorest in that area,
Right.
public infrastructure which will allow people to people and traffic to move around easily. And of course, environment was another big piece for us. Waste management was a big piece for us as well.
Right.
And we believe that if the country has to move forward, if the nation building has to happen, by each one of us, we believe
Right.
that education at the grassroots level was critical. So we
Right.
decided earlier on that sustainable approaches, both in our construction activities and in the way we give back, should be the foundation stone in the way we approach CSR. So education, sustainable infrastructure, and doing it through community and engagement. These are the three
Got it.
pillars around which we run our CSR projects.
Fantastic. That's really, really encouraging, very inspiring to hear. So how does your organization communicate CSR? What are some of the methods, channels, or resources that you all use?
Right. As an organization, we initially started off a few years ago by looking at how we are perceived as a brand. So we went about quite scientifically. We
Got it.
asked our investors, our partners, clients, a large number of blue chip IT national companies that are renting space from our tech parks, all our employees. So it was a collective exercise. We asked everybody how they perceived the brand. And what really came out at that time very strongly was that the fact that we were doing so much in giving back to the society was not being communicated. It was
Okay.
actually, the word they used was, it's the best kept secret. It sort of
Okay.
hit us hard because we had been doing a lot, but none of it was really been communicated effectively. So we decided to go about it again, in a structured way. We got in experts, a consultant to be precise, who defined our CSR philosophy. Everything that we already were doing,
Right.
it wasn't
Yeah.
like we reinvented the wheel. Then we, of course, fine-tuned it, and then we decided that every company that funnels in their CSR funding into this main corpus across Embassy's group of companies,
Right.
at its board level, the board members have a buy-in, and there's a proper CSR, objectives and vision and mission statement that we created, and
Got it.
it's a very beautifully rendered document that all board members and all employees had a chance to sort of get used to and get to know, in a, I would say, structured manner. They had one look and said, this is my dashboard for CSR, and this is what we want to achieve, and this is a
Got it.
roadmap. That was the first communication we did at all levels,
Right.
and we largely on the boards. The second thing we did is we developed, actually, yeah, we developed a website that actually started communicating everything that we want to do in CSR and we're already doing, and we kept that pretty up to
Right.
date. So that was another powerful tool for communication.
Right.
We looked at the entire database of investors, partners, clients, employees across the spectrum, and we sort of cherry picked who are the key people that we want to want to sort of present this idea to. So we then went on to create a 2 minute or a 3 minute video, if I remember, in the beginning, and a very short, crisp deck, which then allowed us to sort of ask people, saying that, look, here is a government school, and these are the issues in the government school. Would you
Right.
like to come forward and partner with us? And sure enough, over the last 3 years, we've had about 45 corporate engagements with us. It's
Great.
just a joint exercise. They also fund along with us, and we've
Okay.
been able to curate about 45 CSR projects just by collaborating with our existing clients, our vendors, our partners, and our employees. All the giving has been sort of streamlined. So each
Fantastic.
time an event takes place, we sort of culminate it with testimonials, videos, short videos, to sort of summarize the whole event. And of course, sometimes we even send out pictures on WhatsApp so that people are up to date. And yeah, communication's easy these days digitally. So we do a
Yeah. Yeah.
lot of, yeah.
Fantastic. And so, is there a dedicated team which works on this? And what are the skills that you think are required, and what do you think the organization values? What skills do they value for CSR communications or CSR overall?
So we have a pretty interesting model across embassies verticals. We have a common Marcom and PR team, right?
Mm,
So centralized teams.
right.
Um, each vertical has a Marcom and a PR SPOC. So I have a PR and Marcom SPOC for CSR. Similarly,
Right.
all my other
Right.
verticals do, and
Right.
and then we feed it to we leverage, sometimes larger agencies, but we may have a small mandate as CSR compared to a residential portfolio,
Right.
but we have an engagement with a really large agency because they see the whole as a group requirement.
Right. Got
So,
it.
so one of the advantages is we get the services of some of the much bigger agencies,
Mm,
and doesn't limit us by budget. What
right.
I look for in a colleague who is in this space is somebody who has a passion for giving. That's important to me. And is she able to tell a story, or is he
Mm,
able to weave a story
mm,
enough to move somebody so much that they will
mm,
pick up the phone and say, "Guys, how are you going about it? Is there any way we can? I'm also facing the same problem. Can I learn from you?
right.
Can I partner with you?"
Got it.
We are essentially not an NGO or a trust. So we are
Right.
trying to mobilize large corporates who
Mm,
are within our tech parks to say, if you're trying to work in areas like education,
mm,
here is a spectrum of things you can do, given
correct.
our experience of construction, repairs, renovations, and all of that we've been doing for the last 8 years.
Mm,
So it brings a lot of synergies. So
got it.
storytelling is so important. Yeah.
And so, I know that you would, I mean, there would be some budgets, but I'm just trying to understand what are some of the areas where you would invest those budgets in. So, what are those broad themes under which CSR communication gets the investments?
See, there are two components or three components largely. One is what the annual reports look like, what your STG reports look like, what the board sees and what the
Right.
external area sees. For
Right.
me, the website is very important because a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people wanting to know more about a work visit the website.
Mm,
But when you're actually on the ground doing work,
mm,
then there's a lot of fun stuff that we can create to communicate our work within the communities we work in. So if
got
it
it.
is schools, if it is hospitals, 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 we also have televisions that we also
Mm,
have televisions that sort of pick up these stories, and across our tech parks, we sort of loop these stories, etc.
got it.
So yeah, so this goes on. So I think it's a mix of I use a whole load of short videos and
Mm,
YouTube as a very strong medium as well
mm,
to sort of communicate our work. Yeah,
got it. And
minute videos. Yeah.
so what trends do you spot with CSR and especially with communications?
I think tweets, when Twitter is obviously important,
Mm,
Instagram and Twitter seems to be the way forward.
mm,
If you're looking at mass media, but
right.
internal communications could be more in sync with what the company has put in place. So for example, we have Facebook at workplace, right? So we do a lot of communication through that.
Got it.
I find WhatsApp the easiest to sometimes let people know in 30 seconds, what
Mm,
we've done, and then hook them up into some other portal to learn more. So just
mm,
to pique their interest.
mm,
And also WhatsApp, obviously, as you know, is most efficient when it comes to getting projects and stuff done. So when we work for any small project or a large project, we always have a little WhatsApp group that's talking to
mm,
each other every day. So
got it.
that's very effective. Um,
Mm,
Short videos and testimonials
mm,
are very powerful in CSR. So
right.
we've developed over 80 or 90 testimonials last year alone of children telling their story or parents talking about how we've impacted them. I
Right.
think those are very important as well.
Great. And could you describe, give an example or a campaign that you are proud of, which has resulted in, impacting your social goals or your business outcomes?
So during the coronavirus lockdown in March,
Mm,
one of our, actually the head of our Marcom team, a very young chap, he came
mm,
forward and said that, let's do something for the people in the front.
mm,
And he pointed at the police. He said,
mm.
nobody really, the police have sometimes a negative image also, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Mostly positive, but some of it is quite negative.
right.
So we decided to provide them 24 bar 7 hydration points across the country.
Oh,
So
nice.
wherever we had technology parks, we
Mm,
opened them the ground floor that faces the road, right?
mm,
We
mm,
opened it
mm.
up to a really comfortable sort of rest and recoup center for the
Okay,
police where they could come in for coffee, tea,
right.
go to a clean, sanitized toilet. They
Mm,
could pick up a mask or a sanitizer if they needed it, and they
mm,
wanted to change it for some reason. If it
right.
was a meal time, we fed them meals.
Mm,
So um, and this led to a series of things we did for police across the country. So,
mm.
so Noida police, the Mumbai police, and the Bangalore police got PPEs. They knew we
Oh,
were working
yeah,
on these areas.
right.
Then did a complete exercise where we went and approached the police and said, "We want to equip your team with masks and sanitizers and energy bars that each
Mm,
policeman can be given every morning." Uh,
mm,
and sure enough, we were able to obviously mobilize it quickly, but this was in March.
mm,
So March, April, and May, we've been working, with the police commissioners in these cities, Pune,
right.
Mumbai, Noida, and Bangalore, and they didn't have to like beg us or anything,
Mm,
push us
mm,
and follow up.
mm,
We've been really, supporting them consistently, and I think
mm.
the stories and social media and the videos and the testimonials that have come out of it
Right.
really been heartwarming. So, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a very noble thought, and it's a very timely thing because you're right, and the policemen are I mean, most impacted because on their front lines, and yeah, so it's a great idea.
yeah.
And
Another very nice thought was, the SSLC exams, the grade 10
mm,
exams took place in the Karnataka
right.
state. And the education department, actually, I approached them because I work
Mm,
so closely with them here. I said, what can we do? You know?
mm, mm,
And they had this ambitious project of conducting the grade 10 exams during the thick of, you know,
mm,
the pandemic.
right.
And unfortunately, the exams started when Bangalore started going crazy. The last
Yeah.
10 days were the exams, can you believe?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what we did was we asked our tenants in our tech parks if anybody wants to join us, because
Mm,
this was a statewide requirement of
mm,
sanitizers. So pretty
right.
much 2 lakh, 2.9 lakh students and invigilators
Mm,
going into about 2,800 and odd centers
mm,
every day for 6 days.
right.
So the project was itself about 80 lakhs, but what
Mm,
really was nice about the whole story was companies that had not partnered with us before, like
mm,
L&T,
mm,
AXA, Cerner
mm,
is a partner, they were joining us,
mm,
Cognizant Technologies, Wells
mm,
Fargo, these are all our tenants. So
right.
each one of them pitched in money, but
Mm,
Embassy executed the project for them.
okay.
So we
Great.
procured the sanitizers, We
Mm.
got them into a school that we had constructed, which was secure and sanitized, and we
Right.
had a team actually building the whole, end-to-end distribution, packaging, distribution, dispatch, and all of that.
Okay.
It was scary. It was in May. We
Mm.
did this in May, but
Mm.
we've got six new partners with the story,
Mm.
and a
Mm.
lot of goodwill with the education department, saying that these guys mean what they say.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
That's
That.
something that we've nurtured over the years, the relationship,
Mm.
and we normally stay away from any day-to-day activities with the government, but
Mm.
this
Mm.
helped us cement a much stronger bond.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think kudos to your team for doing a great job on that. I mean, getting companies together, collaborating is a very
That
noble
was
thing to do.
fantastic. Yeah.
And what's your advice for CSR practitioners as to how can they communicate more effectively? So, what's your advice as a leader in this space?
All right. So I think my I had a very interesting 2 years where we studied how companies do their CSR
Hmm.
by way of our work. So one of our mandates is to collaborate with our tenants.
Right.
So each time we went in and met our tenants, we obviously learned a lot about how they do their work.
Mm.
So one of my advices to the corporates who are funding, right,
Hmm.
would be to work with the government, not work in isolation if you're trying to
Mm.
fix a problem that the government was supposed to fix in the first place, whether
Right.
it's waste management, whether it's public infrastructure, whether it's public education. Align with the government as much as
Mm.
possible. It's frustrating sometimes, but that's where you achieve scale, is
Mm.
my experience. You
Mm.
can't try and do something in your own little bubble, and
Yeah.
that's it will be. That's one. The other thing to do is not to change your CSR projects year on year.
Mm.
Try to pick up something for at least a minimum of 3 years,
Mm.
create sustainable model, and then
Mm.
hand it over. you know
Got it.
don't spoon feed them beyond 3 to 5
Mm.
years max. That
Good.
would be another advice. And the third one is related to this coronavirus
Mm.
pandemic panic that NGOs are in at the moment, right?
Mm.
I would strongly advise corporates to at least try and sustain your NGO partners through these times.
Mm.
I mean, the ability to build a long-term relationship with an NGO partner or a vendor who's delivering your work, it's
Right.
hard work to sustain and bring them up to some level of, you know, um,
Mm.
efficiency.
Got it.
And I would say, instead of just cutting your funding for them,
Mm.
they may be a part of your funds that you can provide to
Mm.
sustain them in a small way, just so that they don't lose their key people, and,
Right.
they're also able to survive the pandemic. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
let's say 2 months later a vaccine comes, you want to hit the ground running, and you
Mm.
want to be in a situation where you're still finding partners, and
Mm.
so that's something that we've done quite effectively. We've looked at each of our partnerships that we have with NGO partners, implementing
Mm.
partners, and we've said,
Got
what
it.
do you need to survive? In fact, even this morning we had a couple of hours of discussion where we looked at the first quarter budgets, and we
Mm-hmm.
said, let's create a corpus that is called COVID corpus, and we'll
Mm.
see what all we can bring under that.
Mm.
Just ensure that there is continuity and sustainability in the work.
Got it.
So this.
Fantastic. That's a great piece of advice. And there are a lot of these aspiring, practitioners who want to join this evolving CSR domain. So, what's your advice for people who want to make this a career? So, what do you advise them?
I think there's so much to do in our country. I mean, unfortunately, there's so much to do.
Mm.
So pick the big ones would be my advice.
Mm.
Healthcare and education needs a lot more work.
Mm.
Environment does need a lot more work. In some
Mm.
areas, it's quite organized.
Mm.
Things like water is also a huge area.
Right.
So yeah. One of the things that I personally spend a lot of my time doing is talking to large corporates and aligning their thinking, and
Mm.
showing them areas where the problem lies, right?
Got it. Yeah.
And sort of talking them through it and saying, look, pick this up. Okay, you want to restore a lake, so be
Mm.
it, but pick
Mm.
it up for a longer period of time. So if there is
Yeah.
a new person wanting to do this for the first time, pick the big ones, and try and work as close as possible with agencies that align with the government.
Got it. Got
Might
it.
be,
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. And as we wrap up, Shaina, so how can organizations get better with communicating CSR? I mean, what is your recommendations?
I think one of the challenges in an organization is bringing our employees on board, right? They
Hmm.
are the future, right?
Absolutely,
Bringing
yeah.
the board on board because this is not
Mm-hmm.
really a critical topic for boards, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
probably a good to have and a good to know kind of a
Mm-hmm.
topic. How do you engage the board? How do you engage your leadership and your employees and the first circle of your investors, partners, etc. to this? This I believe is the largest challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
you can only do this through storytelling, through personal
Mm-hmm.
meetings,
Right.
immersing them in projects, and sort of getting it. It's happened to us personally. I mean, each of our senior leader of a
Mm-hmm.
vertical
Mm-hmm.
today knows, understands, and appreciates the depth of our work.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we are given an equal standing across verticals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if companies can structure their CSR verticals in such a way that they invest in people, a lot of companies don't have dedicated CSR teams.
Right.
There are
Right.
guys running the sales and strategy, and they're also trying to do CSR.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's another investment that
Got it.
you do it in a sustained way, and you're not
Right.
just dumping the money on an NGO and hoping you get a report.
Got it.
I
Got it.
I find that having a couple of people
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to CSR is a great investment because
Mm-hmm.
all you're giving, the
Mm-hmm.
communication piece, the
Mm-hmm.
the actual projects that actually take place, all of it will be at a far higher level.
Mm-hmm.
than-
Got it. Got it. This so Shaina, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. These insights have been extremely, extremely useful. So I'm sure it'll be very, very valued by all our viewers. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah.